Hi, this is Chris Ryan, the founder of Day 180. Today is Wednesday, October 25th. Today, I'll be walking through a progress check. Users that have started the Day 180 process did some work initially over the summer to organize and begin the process of organizing their tech licenses. At this point in time, there's some really unique things that are happening as far as tech use and some behavior work that you can see in use of products that I think is very important, and that's what this progress check will focus on. The discussion I'll focus on will really kind of hinge on a few things. We'll cover kind of the basics of where we are in the year, some tech evidence that we have. I'm going to reinforce some first year tips that I would suggest and that help you make the most of investments that you have in technology and match that up with some of your expectations. And then talk about our next waypoint. Kind of the next stop will be closer to the holidays. But this first progress check, let's start this kind of today being October 25th. We're at about 45 days in. If you look at this is our local calendar. We started back in August. Each week you have about 5 days of instructional time. We reached this point. We're about a quarter of the way through the year. It's early. It's definitely that time where people are, users are settling in. Some of the questions that may be arising right now, of the users that have settled in, are you using, and are they at capacity with the services that you've purchased? One big question as I'm talking with districts is, are your big investments performing? So if you've made some investments in maybe too early yet for any indication of use of your assessment systems, but that may be something that you'll be paying attention to because you spend a lot on those, as well as your core curriculum and some of your content products that you have and have expectations that they're going to produce. So at this point in the year, there's really an interesting perspective that can start to come to the surface with a little bit of effort and kind of working with your teams to make these connections. That last question I have there is, do you have an idea of what tech is being used in the district? And that is an important question, and it is something that at this point, sometimes because of schools so busy and administrators are busy and there's a lot of planning that happens, but once the year starts, it's kind of it almost feels like that stage of triage where you're working at things that are just seem to be coming at you, or you're solving problems with new problems this year that weren't there and you didn't anticipate over the summer. Kind of taking, not able to go back and properly true up whether products are being used. And that's something that's really important because the use data that you have tools. Many districts are members or use the Clever product. You also use the ClassLink service. Those services do a good job of showing you user login behaviors. And I think that's an important first step. And right now, that's the work that I'm seeing that's really interesting at this point. And it is truly the way there's by taking a snapshot and doing some analysis now, and maybe doing another analysis before you make those decisions, potentially two more before you make those decisions to renew for the 24-25 year. Going beyond this school year into next, if you had the ability to look at, an export of your login data from ClassLink and Clever, the ability to see those unique logins. I'm going to show you something that what you're seeing here is a little snapshot of an export that I did with a user district. We exported their data from Clever, cleaned it just a little bit. And then I just dropped it in to ChatGPT to see what starting points would it offer suggestions. What you see down this list is really interesting. Truly, the prompt was using the following data, make some assumptions on the information that's shown. And it was literally a list of users, logins for products, and this is the response that it gave, which was there was a lot of variability in adoption. There are popular platforms, and it kind of talks about what those are. It's diverse adoption or lack of adoption. There's student-centric versus teacher-centric. There's concentrated resources. So why are so many people, teachers or students, using certain products? Balanced adoption. There's few that have balanced adoption rates across all. niche tools and low adoption or high teacher adoption, that contrast of users. It also talks about, this is literally plugging it into ChatGPT, which is a machine. So what it's doing is giving you a jump start on the analysis that you're seeing. If you were to do this process or take a look at your Clever data in your district now, I think the findings that you'll see may surprise administrators. This is a view and connecting purchased products with license and price and the use. Connecting those dots is not a natural occurrence in a district. It's something I think we talk about, and I think districts have an instinct or a gut feel for, but until you do that work, I think that's where you can then refine and make some real improvements in use of services. Some tips for this rest of this year. I want to just kind of reinforce these three ideas. Continuing to focus on your baseline, this license baseline, being as specific as we can around the detail that we collect, and then being consistent with this as a part of a bigger process that helps you then drive some new decisions in the district. And I think this first concept of focusing on a baseline, I'm using some harvest analogy or imagery. I'm based in Illinois, and this is happening now in Illinois, and this is very timely for us. From a farmer standpoint, they're finishing the end of their year, but all of the inputs that go into this the product and what that farmer thinks of as inputs, once they have an understanding of the baseline, they can improve that yield over time. So if they know that fertilizer was a certain, you put it on at a certain rate or a certain time, maybe they irrigate and put water on the crops at a certain time at a certain pace. Maybe there's some things that they do that's unique that really can drive a higher yield. What they're doing and what they do every year is look at what they did in the prior year or what they've done up to this point, and really look at those factors so they can begin fine-tuning. So a baseline, well, you have to start this process. By starting, you're actually giving yourself an opportunity to then contrast against that baseline. So once you have this, there's decisions that can be made. Sometimes they're immediate and sometimes they're very obvious. And other times it takes a little time and some sharing and some socializing of that information before real decisions come into focus and improving decisions that will improve the work in the district. The next step is kind of just being specific around that data collection of product information, price. I have purpose here. This may be for users that are beginning this process so early. The idea of purpose around a product may be a little too much to gather in first year, but it is certainly something that you'll want to think about later and potentially align it to some strategic needs, district plans, and making sure that it aligns with needs of the district. It only makes it better for you to negotiate and find products that work better than for a certain need and help you be more intentional with the work that's happening. Use data is obviously that information that's showing that the products are actively being used. Really, the next step, being just as a reminder, is being consistent with this process. So as you identify what your starting point is within your district, the elements that are at play being, here's a list of products, here's our prices that we paid for these products and the license that we have in place, and now here's our use, and maybe that use data is at 45 days in, maybe it's at 90 days in, or maybe it's closer to like that 100-day or closer to your budgeting time frame where you want to say this is the pieces that we're going to put together. But it's important that you're just consistent with the use of this, and it may improve in year 2. And you may note on your Day 180 format that what you intend to do for the following year to improve that process. But those decisions, it's okay to be at a stage where your first year is a first year draft essentially. But being consistent with that and knowing that what you're planning and using this for, it will yield some results for you that really do help you make some improvements. And I put that statement there: the future you will thank you. the idea that you're doing the work now, you're going to add around the edges in year 2, and it gets more deep. There's more detail and more leverage that you're gathering by collecting this information. Finally, our next stop is around the holidays. December 20th is the date I have scheduled. I'll be releasing a video similar to this at that time. It's going to reinforce, and by then I'll have other data, some contrast data from users that are contrasting early year, mid-year information, and some decisions that have been made, and then kind of planning for that decision time frame around just before your budgeting time. In those dates, I have this next date on the December 20th listed here. The next day I'll do a 100-day celebration. It's kind of close, but it's still ahead of your budgeting time frame. And then our last day of school is May 24th, and that then would start our next year. So those are the kind of the waypoints that I have in place to remind our users and to reinforce and talk about the process along these waypoints, and kind of make these connections along the way. But I think this is kind of represents, if we're paying attention to this in a way that's intentional, we're having some strong conversations around, are we using the technology that we purchase? I think it is really going to be a benefit. It's really, really important that as new technologies, and I used the ChatGPT example in this presentation, there's new technologies that are going to hit and be requested, and you'll want to try in the district that just blow other services out of the water that you've used technology-wise. I think by doing this process now, you're able to make room for those kind of experiments and identify those ways that you're going to use those. Those take time, and they also are not given the attention if you're diluted with a lot of other products and offerings that are out there for everyone to the expectation to use this stuff that's out there. So your work on this can really make a difference in the planning of new tech that's coming in the next few years. And this is an ongoing process. Even when that happens, it's going to still be a state of measuring and paying attention to these tools that should be helping us in driving some better engagement. With that, I want to thank you. This is our progress check for the fall, and I really look forward to connecting with all of you. If there are questions, please email or call me. I'm happy to connect, share, talk about this, and dig further with you on next steps. Thank you.